This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Good morning, everybody. We're already holding within 10 days of the Yom Tov of Chanukah. Definitely Shloshim Yom Koydem HaChag. There's a shaila in halacha whether Shloshim Yom Koydem HaChag applies to Purim and Chanukah, but already we're close enough. So we're going to talk about an important halacha. The Gemara tells us in Masechta Shabbos in Parak Ba'amal Madlikin, Asur lehishtamesh la'ira. It is prohibited to use the oil of Chanukah. You're not allowed to get hana from the oil. Why? So we'll talk about why in a moment. First, let's get the what. What are you not allowed to use the oil for? What kind of tashmish are you not allowed to use it for? So the Torah writes that we're not afraid when it comes to Ner Chanukah Shemayateh. We know on Shabbos you're not allowed to use certain types of oil because we're afraid they might not light well and you're going to come to be mateh. But on Chanukah we don't have that chashash. Why? Sharei Asur l'shtamish la'ira. You're not allowed to use the oil of Chanukah. You're not allowed to make use of its light. Says the Torah, Lo yishna tashmish shel kedusha. It doesn't matter if it's a use of kedusha, could go in lilmoid, you can't learn by it. V'lo yishna shnar tashmish, or any other tashmish. You're not allowed to roast marshmallows. Let's say, after the Neiros, you want to have some family time. So you say, no, this year no presents. You say to your kids, where does it say I have to give you presents? It says in the Shulchan Aruch. I don't think that's going to work. But say instead, this year we're going to roast marshmallows. Are you allowed to roast marshmallows? No, you can't roast marshmallows. Are you allowed to learn? No, you can't learn by it. Avafilu tashmish arai, even a temporary use. You can't even be ma'ayin into your money. Now, what does it mean to be ma'ayin into your money? So somebody gave me a check this morning for the Sefer Torah. They thought they were giving $18, but they forgot to put the dat. So it said $1,800. So sometimes you have to be ma'ayin into the money. So if you want to be ma'ayin into money, that's also asur. Ubal ha'iter kasav, however, that's the shita of the Torah. Okay? You can't use the Ner Chanukah for anything. The Bal ha'iter writes, Dafka tashmish shel chol, only a mundane use. Aval tashmish shel kedusha shari. You're allowed to learn. Yeah, machlokas rishayim. But the Rosh, the Torah says to my father, the Rosh, he did not agree with the Bala Itor. My father held that it was asur to use the Ner Chanukah for any usage whatsoever. Could you pass me Chelek Vav of the Mishnah Berurah? Just want to speak out. How do we paskin? This machlokes, the Bala Itor and the Rosh, we paskin asur le'shtamish la'ira lo'ishna tashmish. We don't have Mishnah Berurah. We have to get Mishnah Berurah. Right. Loishna tashmish chayil, loishna tashmish shel kedusha. Okay. What? You can't use it for anything. That's the halacha. Okay, so you're barking up a good tree. The Gemara on Chav Gimel and Beis, you have it on your sheet, the next page. The Gemara is a shaila. Amar Rava. Rava said, Pshita li ner beisai v'ner Chanukah ner beisai adif. If you only have one candle for either for ner Shabbos or for ner Chanukah, ner Shabbos is adif. Why? Mishum shalom beisai, because of shalom bayis. Ner beisai v'kiddush hayom. If it's a choice between ner bayis and kiddush, ner beisai adif mishum shalom beisai. By the way, that's talking about kiddush Shabbos day. Kiddush Friday night is doiraisa. So kiddush Friday night for sure trumps kiddush ner Chanukah. But if it's ner beisai and kiddush Shabbos day, ner Chanukah is better. Ner Shabbos is better because of shalom bayis. So we have this shaila. What do you do if you only have one candle? Should you use it for Shabbos or should you use it for Chanukah? The Gemara says you should use it for Shabbos because of Shalom Bayis. Fine, that's one interesting halacha. Another halacha. Look on Chav Beis Amud Aleph, next page. About 8 lines down. Amar Rabba, Ner Chanukah, Mitzvah hanicha b'tefach hasmucha lepesach. The Ner Chanukah, the mitzvah is to place it by within a tefach near the doorpost on the opposite side of the mezuzah. Vehecha manachle, where do you put it? Rav Acha Brei de Rav Amar, miyamin on the right side. Rav Shmuel midifti Amar mismal. Rav Shmuel midifti said on the left side. Vehilchasa mismal, kedei shetehei Ner Chanukah mismal umezuzah miyamin. Now, what do you do b'shas hasakana? What do you do b'shas hasakana? So the Gemara says, b'shas hasakana, you light it indoors, v'daya, you put it on your table. Okay, so these are the options. Option number one is, the best place is you put it by the doorway, on the left side. Yeah, we don't do that really, it's not as an actual, they do it. Option number two is, you do it by your window. Option number three, if it's a sakana, you put it on your table. Comes a goyin, and the goyin says, regarding this machlokes between the Rosh and the Bala Itor, can you use the Ner Chanukah for Tashmish Kedusha? Could you not use it for Tashmish Kedusha? Says the Gemara, I'm going to bring you irrefutable proof that you're not allowed to use Ner Chanukah for Tashmish Shel Kedusha. What's the proof? Take a look in the Bir Hagra. Okay? The Bir Hagra is probably the most concise and jam-packed commentary ever written on anything. In a few words of the Gra, he covers the entire sugya. This is the Bir Hagra in Siman Taf Reish Ayin Gimel, the third line. Va'afilu tashmish shalchal, de'im lo ikein ozda tam hanal, v'nafkamina, v'chein mashma, mima shekasav, ner beisoy v'ner chanukah, ner beisoy adif. The Gemara has a shaila. If you only have one candle, you could use it for Friday night, you could use it for Ner Chanukah. What should you use it for? Ner Shabbos. Ask the Gemara, what in the world is Gemara shaila? If you're allowed to use Ner Chanukah for a Davar Shabbat Kedusha, just like one candle, use it for Ner Shabbos and Ner Chanukah. What's the Gemara shaila? Which one is better? Why does one have to be better? Why can't you use it for both?
Make two brachas on one candle?
So now there is a shaila. What? What? Oh, the raya to the shita of the Rosh that Ner Chanukah is also l'shtamish l'oira even for a Dvar Mitzvah. So even though the Gemara says Mitzvah is al taseh chavilois, what does that mean? Mitzvah is al taseh chavilois. Does that mean that if a person is stuck, and of course we know mitzvah al taseh chavilos. By the way, we just learned it out from Vayetze. You know what is it? We learned it out from your Zayda, Lavan, who said to Yaakov, my Zayda also, who said to Yaakov, he said Malei Shavu Azois. Right? We can't have two Shavuot brachas at the same time. First marry Leah and then marry Rachel.
Meaning what? Light the
you can
light the Ner Chanukah first. Let it.
No.
What? It out and then use it for
No. What?
Light the Ner Chanukah first.
You're answering, or you're saying what the Gra is saying?
No, I'm trying to understand.
Again, the Gra is trying to bring a proof. The Gra says, according to the Baal HaItor, that you're allowed to light. You're allowed to be mishtamish Ner Chanukah l'dvar mitzvah. Then what's the Gemara shaila? That if you only have one candle, should you use it for Ner Shabbos or use it for Ner Chanukah? Use it for both.
Well,
just light one candle and l'char make two brachos. Yeah. There's a shaila in Achronim, according to the Gra, how would you make the bracha? But you'd make, let's say, lahadlik Ner Shabbos, lahadlik Ner Chanukah, or lahadlik Ner.
Why can't you light the Ner Chanukah?
Or Yossi suggesting light the Ner Chanukah.
Do you have enough time for that Erev Shabbos?
That's only lichatchila.
Or like what?
That's only lichatchila to have this man to go till.
But let's say the candle's only big enough.
Okay.
You can't blow it out. If it's exactly a half hour. So if you blow it out, now it's going to be 29 minutes. So you want to do what? Light the Ner Shabbos first?
No, you're getting that from bias, right? Light the Ner Chanukah.
Why do you have to blow it out? For what?
Right.
For what purpose? What are you accomplishing by blowing it out?
You make the bracha.
So make two brachos. Make two brachos. Make two brachos.
You make the bracha on the Chanukah, makes the bracha on the Shabbos.
Yeah, right. Rabbi Nachman was saying, so maybe the husband makes the bracha on the Ner Chanukah, and she makes the bracha on Ner Shabbos. Or you make two brachos. Why can't you make two brachos? What's the issue with making two brachos?
A person can't distinguish between which mitzvah he's doing, or with the public. The public
You mean there's no parsume nisa? You're doing it on your table. Who's the public?
It's the last resort.
Your family? You made two brachas. You're telling them this is for both. So Chaim is bringing up an issue. You're not supposed to do mitzvahs chavilos. That's true. You're not supposed to. But the guy has no money. So does that mean he's not yotzei?
There's no right that you can have enough because there's a reason why you can't do it to begin with. You can't say the reason you can't do it is because you can't have enough. And you could have enough, but you can't do it together.
L'chatchila, you can't do it together. But why is this not a good eitzah b'diavad? According to the Baal HaItor, that you're allowed to use Ner Chanukah for a mitzvah, right? The Baal HaItor says, l'chatchila, you could use Ner Chanukah for a Dvar mitzvah. Then a guy who's poor, why is this not an option to light one candle for both? Possibly. Yeah. But okay, so let's come to the following shaila. Okay, the Gemara says in Masechta Megillah on Daf Daled, Mevatlin Talmud Torah uban l'shmaya mikra Megillah. We're mevatel from learning. You're in the middle of a shiur, and it's time to hear the Megillah. So Chazal say you're mevatel from the Talmud Torah, and you come to light, and you come to hear mikra Megillah. So all the Achronim ask, the Beis Ephraim and the Aruch HaShulchan and Rav Shlomo Kluger and the Sefer HaChaim and in the Chachmash Shloimei, and everyone talks about the Shaila. What does the Gemara mean? You're mevatel Talmud Torah and you come to hear the Megillah. The Megillah is Torah. It's not a book in Tanakh. The Megillah is Torah. You know, it's part of Torah. Every Talmud Chacham has to know it. Which, by the way, you know, everybody today, they have to learn Shas. Yeah, you have to learn Shas. And you have to learn Halacha. You have to learn Halacha. But you also have to learn Torah, Nevi'im, and Ksuvim. That's like the basis. It's like the foundation. Yeah. How, you know, Avada Shas is Torah. Ein HaKadosh Baruch Hu karas brisim Yisrael ela b'Torah sheba'al peh. But ma kala mekushetes b'chav daled kishutin av talmud chacham tzarich liyos baki b'chav daled svarim. Rav Moshe knew not only the Tanakh, he knew every single trup on every word of Tanakh. You could ask him, what's the trup on that pasuk of Daniel? He could tell you, of course. Anyway, so Megillah Esther is Torah, so why does the Gemara say, Mevatlin Talmud Torah, ban l'shma mikra Megillah? It's not Bitul Torah. Right? I'm sure you heard that kasha. So what's Reb Shlomo Kluger's answer? Says Reb Shlomo Kluger, a big chiddush. You can't be yotzei two mitzvahs at the same time. Not mitzvahs al tas chavilos. It's not physically possible to be yotzei two mitzvahs simultaneously. So if you're in the middle of doing the mitzvah of Talmud Torah, and now you say, I'm going to read Megillah Esther, we're going to ask you one simple question. What do you want to be accomplishing by reading Megillah Esther? Do you want to get the mitzvah of Talmud Torah? Yeah? You're not yotzei to the mitzvah of Mikra Megillah. You want to be yotzei to the mitzvah of Mikra Megillah? You don't get the mitzvah of Talmud Torah. That's why the Gemara says, Mevadlin Talmud Torah, because there's no way to be Mekayim two mitzvahs simultaneously. That's the answer of Rav Shlomo Kluger. So the Gra is coming to say, well, according to the Baal HaItor, that you're allowed to be mishtamesh with the Ner Chanukah for Dvar Mitzvah, so why don't you just light the Ner Chanukah for Ner Chanukah, Ner Shabbos? What would Rav Shlomo Kluger say? Pal, make up your mind. Which mitzvah do you want to do? It's similar to what Chaim was saying. The mitzvah of mitzvahs al tas chavis is usually al chadchila dekadin. The question is, bottom line, if you do it, can you physically be yotzei, Reb Shlomo Kluger says no. So what does the Gra hold? In other words, the Gra is refuting the Balo Iter. The Gra is refuting the Balo Iter. The Balo Iter would have to say back, I hold like the Chiddush of Reb Shlomo Kluger. The Gra apparently does not hold like Reb Shlomo Kluger. Because the Gra is asking, light the Ner Chanukah for Ner Shabbos. What do you mean? Reb Shlomo Kluger would say you can't do that. So Pashtus is we have a very solid proof from the Gra against the great Chiddush of Reb Shlomo Kluger. Or maybe not. Is the mitzvah to light Ner Shabbos, or is the mitzvah to make sure that there's light on? And if there's light on, then you're exempt from the mitzvah. Right? There's a big shayla in halacha, bezman hazeh. When a woman lights candles, could she make a bracha? Why is she lighting candles? You think she adds light? The lights are on already. It's not doing anything. So some people are makbid, they turn off the lights. Turn off the light. She lights the candles. She then flicks on the lights. And then she makes the bracha. Some people do that. We don't do that because we say it does add something. It makes it more, it enhances the ambiance. Something like that.
What's the part of the mix?
Somebody took me to a big rabbi recently, Makubal, don't ask, and the lights were on, but he had candles going. Why? It was much more spooky. It was definitely more spooky. Did it add more light? No. But it definitely added to the atmosphere. Now in restaurants, they don't want you to see the food. You think it's because it adds to the ambiance. No, it's because if you would see the health report from the government of what they found in the back in the kitchen, in any restaurant, you would never go there again. Not it. So that's why they turn off the lights so you don't exactly see what's going on over there. What?
Not to see the bill.
Oh, it's not to see the bill, right? Okay, so what the question is, what does the Baal HaIter hold? The Baal HaIter either holds that, like the Chiddush of Reb Shlomo Kluger, that you can't physically be mekayim two mitzvahs simultaneously, or does Reb Shlomo Kluger, or does the Baal HaIter hold as follows? Yeah.
Does that apply to everything? So let's say the Shabbos, right? The Talmud Torah on Shabbos? I'm not understanding, like, how does that work?
The answer is because you're not. What do you mean on Shabbos? Which mitzvah?
It's the mitzvah of Shabbos.
No, it's not. No, it's not. There's no mitzvah of Shabbos. The mitzvah is to make kiddush on Shabbos. The mitzvah is to make havdalah on Shabbos.
Okay, so I'm eating the Suda on Shabbos, and I'm learning at the Suda.
So you're chewing, that's one ma'isa, and then you're talking while you're learning, or you're thinking. So in the machshava of learning, you're mekayim the Talmud Torah, and in the act of chewing, you're mekayim the Suda. Now, eating a Suda on Shabbos, it's not pashut. What's the mitzvah? Some Rishonim say it's da'iraisa. So you want to know, you eat meat?
I'm eating meat and looking at a sefer.
Sitting in the
It's two maisim. No, it's not. You could do sitting in the sukkah and what?
And learning.
The answer is, one maisa is your legs are in the position of sitting, so that your legs are doing the mitzvah of yeshiva, and your mouth and eyes are doing the mitzvah of Talmud Torah. But what you can't do is one act cannot get you the fulfillment of two mitzvahs. That's the chiddush of Shlomo Kluger. Lighting the candle, right now, this is the act, the one act of lighting the candle. It can't work for both Ner Shabbos and Ner Chanukah. You're right. In other words, let's say, can I give one ani with one left hand, one ani with the right hand, and I'm on a bicycle at the same time being mekayim, and I'm learning. It's not that you're not allowed to do. I think that's more similar to mitzvahs al tasa chavilos, No, it's one act. It's one act. Mikra Megillah, is that act of Mikra Megillah Talmud Torah, or is it?
You could be chalik because Ner Chanukah is hadlaka isa mitzvah, and by Shabbos it's about shalom bayis. So it's not the act of lighting; it's the taitzah of what.
Pashtus is Ner Shabbos is also hadlaka isa mitzvah. Shabbos is also hadlaka isa mitzvah. there is a tzad to say if there is already light, then you're exempt from the mitzvah. So it could be what the Gra is saying is light the menorah, and once you light the menorah, now you're exempt. Maybe we'll agree to Rav Chanukah. You can't get two mitzvahs at the same time. But once you light the menorah, you're in a matzav where you're exempt from their Shabbos. So it's not that you're Mekayim both, it's you're Mekayim one and you exempt the other. Here's another possibility that the Baal Iter holds. This din, that b'shas hasakana, you could put it on your table. But this guy, it's not a shas hasakana, he's just poor. So could he put the Ner Chanukah on his table? So, whoa, we see from b'shas hasakana that that's an option for Ner Chanukah. So let's try to understand, what does that mean, b'shas hasakana, it's an option. Does that mean the mitzvah of Ner Chanukah is light the Ner on your desk? The only thing is, if you're able to light it outside, light it outside. If you're not able to light it outside, light it by the window. If you're not able to light it on your table. Or is the mitzvah of Ner Chanukah, light it outside? And the option of lighting on your table is only available if you're b'sakana. If you're not b'sakana, you can't light it on your table. So then the Gra's question doesn't start. The Gra's question is, according to the Baal Itur, that you're allowed to be nene from Ner Chanukah. Why don't you just light it on your table? Maybe the Baal Itur would say, because it's not an option, it's not a sakana. By the way, on the subject of halakha oisa mitzvah, this is a halacha. I say it every year, and I don't know why nobody does it. But it's in the Bir Halacha. I saw it in, it's brought by Rav Shmuel Felder in his Kuntres and now his Sefer on Chanukah. And it's l'chara something to think about. If you ask somebody and they tell you there's a reason why we don't do it, I try to do it. Hadlaka oisa mitzvah, the Bir Halacha brings down, which means you have to physically light the whole wick. The way most people light is they put wick on wick, it catches fire, and they move on to the next. He says you're not Yotzei. Because the fire didn't yet spread to the part of the... It's not enough that it catches and then spreads. Then you didn't light it, you just lit the tip. You have to hold it on until roiv of the wick that will catch fire already caught on. That's another like 7 seconds per wick. In other words, if you watch how, when you light a wick, how the fire takes hold, first, you hold it there, and it's starting to singe a little bit, and then, okay, you see the little fire, but then it takes a few seconds for the fire to spread down. Now, you don't have to wait until it spreads down and covers the whole area it will spread to, but the majority of the area. The Bir Halacha says, since hadlaka isa mitzvah, you have to physically cause that as opposed to let it spread on its own. Next inyan, okay? So that's inyan number one. Lamaisa, halach lamaisa, we paskin, asr leheshtamish la'oira, you can't even use it for a tashmish kedusha. The Gra's raya to this is otherwise, why don't you just use Ner Chanukah for Ner Shabbos? We pointed out, according to Reb Shlomo Kluger, that shouldn't work. Next inyan. Let's say somebody comes back from a wedding. I have a wedding, Chanukah, Thursday night. I have a first cousin getting married. It's in Lakewood, right? So everybody knows Lakewood to 5 towns. You might as well go to Eretz Yisrael, on the flight. It's cheaper. The gas is cheaper. Basically the flight cost and the gas to get to Lakewood is basically the same cost. The time amount, Anyway, what's halacha? You come back at night. Or somebody comes back late from the office, or somebody was on a trip and they come back 1 o'clock in the morning, and everyone in the house is sleeping, and they didn't light. Probably your wife should have lit. She didn't light. Are you allowed to light the Ner Chanukah 2 a.m.? So you say, back in the day when the purpose of lighting is for the people on the street, nobody's in the street, 2 a.m. You have opossums, you have raccoons, but that's not Persumei Nisa. The shaila is, do you have to wake people up in the house? The mitzvah of Ner Chanukah is to be mafar same for the people of the house. Do you have to wake them up? Okay, why is the person themselves not? What would the halacha be if you live in East New York? I don't think too many people live in East New York these days. Right? I know a guy, he has his offices in East New York, but and there's nobody around. No, even Chabad is not around. Could you make a bracha? Let's say you're the only Jew, you live on an island, you're the only Jew. Could you make a bracha if there's nobody around? The halach is yes. What? For yourself. So now the question is, okay, if once we've established that if I'm the only guy in the neighborhood, I'm allowed to light with the bracha, so now I live in Cedarhurst. How many Jews in Cedarhurst? 3,000? I have no idea. I don't know. Nobody even wants to give a guess. Okay. Anyway, so I live in Cedarhurst. But the problem is I'm the only guy up. So I should be able to make a bracha. Mishnah Berurah says, no, I have to wake people up. Okay, look in. This is Siman Tafresh Ayin Beis, Siv Katan Yud Aleph. The Mishnah Berurah says, Kol halayla, ad amod hashachar, until amod hashachar ube bracha. Vaynu davka im b'nei habayis nei oirim. The halach is you could light the whole night until amod hashachar with a bracha. So if I come home 3:45 a.m., I can light with a bracha. So the Mishnah Berurah, davka im b'nei habayis nei oirim. Avalim yishenim ein levarech aleim ela yadlik b'loi bracha. You have to light without a bracha. The kamoy diladhu lo yimavarech el b'zman persumanis. Just like for them back in the day, they only let a time of persumanis. Achanamli done for us also. V'im bala beisa, if you come home, kodim alois hashachar, matzim neves yishenim, min hanochain sheyekitzeim, you should wake them up, kedei sheyuchal lahadlik b'bracha, so that you can light with a bracha. Ay, gezel shina. Whoever said there's something called gezel shina? Where did that come from? Right? Who said there's something called gezel shina? It's definitely not v'yahavta l'reacha kamoicha.
Why? You're waking them up to become mitzvah. 172, right?
So I would say, okay, are you allowed to wake somebody up? So let's say, now how many should you wake up? The Mishnah Berurah just says, wake him up. Everybody. So what? You have a baby, 3-month-old kid. You bring them down. They're like, what are you supposed to do? Well, that's it's the guy's problem that he's showing up 3:45 a.m. Right?
They made a wedding in Lakewood.
Right. Instead of making takanos out of the way, they should make takanos where you're allowed to go. But right? Okay. Anyway, the Sha'ar Tzion says like this. Sha'ar Tzion says, that's the Magen Avram, v'derech hachayim v'chayadim. Okay, this is Gavaldik. U'v'sefer Chemed Moshe herech b'zeh. V'daita, his opinion is, dim shachach, if you forgot oinenas, v'loi hidlik ad sheyashnu kulam, his opinion is, yakutz shnayim oy shloishim hem. Wake up 2 or 3 v'yadlik. Now, why 2 or 3? I never even thought about this. Why 2 or 3? What's the halacha of Kiddush Levana? Should you do it with the minyan? You should try to do it with the minyan. What if, let's say it was cloudy, and you can't come, the minyan's gone. We're supposed to do it, but Sibor, Barabim. Baroiv am hajas melech. Does anybody know what is the minimum of Baroiv am hajas melech? 3. You're mekayim Baroiv am with 3 people. So l'chayra, why 2? You and there's a why or 3. Maybe that's better that it's in front of her. I'm not sure.
Today's daf and also by Parsha Dvar.
Okay, good. But the Chemed Moshe says, "V'imi efshar lahakitsam." If you can wake them up, if they say, no, I'm going to daven the next minyan, right? V'imi efshar lahakitsam. If you can't wake them up, you could make a bracha, not like the Mishnah Berurah. Mishnah Berurah says you must wake them up. Chemed Moshe says try. If you can't, you can make a bracha. Why? Listen to the Chemed Moshe. According to the Magen Avram, that you have to wake them up. What if a person would live somewhere where nobody's around? Af me'anshi abayis. Yadlik v'loi bracha, v'loi ro'inu zeh. We don't find that. Listen to the argument of the Chemed Moshe. Chemed Moshe is saying, if you live in a neighborhood all by yourself, you're allowed to make a bracha. So, if everyone's sleeping, I should also be allowed to make a bracha. You hear his argument? Against the Mishnah Berurah. Mishnah Berurah says, you must wake up household members. Chemed Moshe says, you should try to, but if you can't, you don't have to. The raya is, if you live by yourself, with nobody around, you could make a bracha. So likewise, you shouldn't have to wake anybody up.
What's the Efshar though?
You try getting this kid up, right? Okay, one's Efshar, one's not. So what's the difference? But the Sha'ar Tzion says, V'adarabah, Shilti Gebarim Kasa B'Shem Riyaz, Da'afim Hu Bein Nachrim Levada Yitzarech Lahadlik. Umashma Midakasav came B'Pshita She'adlik B'Bracha. Elavadai, says the Chemed Moshe, Im Yachal Farsim Hadlaka B'Fnei Rabim Yoiser Adif. If you could spread it to more people, it's better. Avalileka, no one's around. B'Shvil Zela Yavatel HaMitzvah. We're not going to be Yavatel the Mitzvah because of that. Kein Nirali V'Chein Noyagim. That's the Chemed Moshe. Try to wake them up, but if you can't, you can make a bracha. Ad kan l'shaynai, says the Mishnah Berurah, I hold no. Safek bracha is lahakel. That if you can't wake them up, don't make a bracha. But if you want to be noyeg like the Chemed Moshe, we're not going to throw rotten tomatoes at you. Ein moichen biyadai. But let's try to explain the shita of the Mishnah Berurah. But the bottom line is Mishnah Berurah holds that if you live in Brownsville, you light with a bracha. But if you live in Cedarhurst at 3:45 a.m., you're mechuyev to wake up your household members. Why? So I once heard a svara many years ago. The mitzvah of Persume Nisa is you need to spread it as much as possible. So if you live in Brownsville, this is the Persume Nisa available to me is me. If I live in Cedarhurst, the Persume Nisa available to me is my household. So I'm required to wake them up. If you can't rouse them, yes, the Chemed Moshe feels they're analogous. And you could light with a bracha. We paskin lamaisa. You come home late at night. Try to wake up. So I wonder, what would the Mishnah Berurah say if I could only get one guy up?
Call a neighbor.
I don't think that would go over very well.
Call a neighbor.
It's still what you could do.
What?
That's what you could do.
No, I would say the Mishnah Berurah would say, I have the availability to wake up. I have the availability of my household. Now, I don't think Mishnah Berurah holds I have to wake up everybody. I need to wake up a representation of my household that's significant. But it seems like if you only get one guy up, you can't get two guys up. You can't make a... What?
Oh, you can't even make a bracha.
You can't make a bracha. So bottom line is, if you come home from... Bottom line is, tell the people in Lakewood, you'll go to a Sheva Brachas after Chanukah. But if you can't pull that off, and you come home late at night...
I'll be up.
What?
I'll be up late.
Yeah, your Pinchas is volunteering to come over? I don't know if that's going to cut it. I have a question. Let's say you can't get up your household, but you could get a Pinchas. Or let's say somebody starts a business. 24-hour round-the-clock on-call to come to your Ner Chanukah. But you can't get your household members. You know, they're like, they're like, call Pinchas. What would be? In other words, do you have to dafka be mefarsim it to your household, or is it enough to be mefarsim? That would be interesting. L'chayra would be enough to call somebody.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.